Thank you so much, Divas, for joining. I've shared some pointers with you, but let me officially welcome those who are joining us online. I'm trying to figure out how do I stop this Google Chrome notifications that keep on popping up here. I should have actually worked out earlier, and I hope you don't hear it in the background. Anyway.
Just the background music's playing, Sam.
Yeah, now I will put it off. Let me just put that off. But otherwise, am I loud and clear? I'm not using headphones today because they are not working. I don't know why. So maybe some sort of problem there with them. But I'm on the normal built-in microphone. How am I coming across?
Yes, it's still loud and clear, Sam.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And then, of course, welcome to our listeners. This is our weekly show dedicated to our digital online mastery streaming program or digital online streaming mastery program. And we are at Unit 18, Conduct 13, which is about mindfulness, focusing, and presenting. My name is Sam Tima. I'm the regular host together with Divesh, Maynard, and Emmanuel, and Umpile, and many other colleagues that will either join or they opt to listen to our podcast, which is always an assurance or an insurance for a guarantee that you don't miss any of our units. This is the mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. That's Cometa Radio Worldwide. Shows are based on the beautiful principle we call the idea. We inform and entertain, develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. That's the idea. I am very excited about this topic, Divesh, because if you look at it, it's almost like revising all the points we talked about with regard to being fully present with the guest and the audiences. We're just going to be specific about focus, presenting, which is really more or less the same as the practice of mindfulness. When you practice mindfulness, you're fully present, you experience the phenomena of being present, and we call it presenting. And this is linked also with theory U that we discussed in the earlier shows. That is the theory that has been developed by Otto Scharmer, who is the professor at MIT. Let me not overindulge so upfront, Divesh, allow you to greet the listeners and tell us how you're doing and what you expect from the conversation this evening. Over to you.
Evening, Sam, and evening to the listeners. Yes, indeed, Sam. Like we've said in our previous shows, we are building the house one brick at a time. And although we've mentioned the aspect of being present, we are delving deeper into those aspects to also then help ourselves as we're also training each other and we're forever learning, but also for the listeners who could not necessarily only use the skills that we are sharing in the aspect of becoming better broadcasters, but also in their own lives. I mean, they could find value in the lessons, the skills that we share to benefit their own lives, Sam.
Indeed, indeed. And for you and I, we have an overview of the 40 units that we are working towards as a target by the end of December. And it's quite pleasing to see the ground we have covered by now from Unit 1 to Unit 18. You could almost say that if you covered almost half of the entire program and you already feel the way you feel, why do we continue on doing this units and this conduct, which seem to be actually talking about same thing? And you said to me that it's like one layer of a wall at a point. Sometimes you don't see that we put one layer You wake up after a couple of sessions, you realize that actually there are four more layers on top of each other. Am I right? Is that how you view it?
Yes, indeed, Sam. But if I can also add to that point, um, the 40 modules of the digital online streaming mastery program, which I graduated from, and Kometsu offers to anyone who's interested in actually getting the skills that we share. As we're building this house, Sam, we as
Mm.
well as experts in this space, we continually learning from each other. We When we look at a point which we had before, we look at it with a different lens. We tend to also derive newfound knowledge from the points as well, thereby enhancing. And when we say we're building this house one brick at a time, and then we go into each layer at a deeper level, like we're doing today, we actually unpacking the aspect of mindfulness, giving some aspects towards the skills that people could use to develop the mindfulness, whether it's for the online digital mastery aspect or whether it's for their own purposes. When we go
Mm.
into something in detail, it helps for specific listeners to pick up what's important for them. And if we're trying to give a message to our audience and allow them to indulge in whatever aspect of the message that really touches them and really benefits them, then I think we're doing a very good job, Sam.
Indeed. We might have not realized that these are the techniques that you can learn and master because we are born with the ability to actually cultivate them. But all what it needs is the consciousness and intentionality and attention to cultivate them to a point that you are constantly holding them in the back of your mind and you are very conscious of applying them. Am I putting it right in justifying the continuous repetition of a number of these conducts?
Well, the repetition might be noticed, yes, but like life itself, Sam, we tend to get stuck in the repetition of life. Day in, day out, we tend to sometimes strive towards just surviving, getting through the day. So, as much as it may sound that our program is repetition in nature or repetitious in nature, one of the aspects that we touched on in a previous show, which was saying that if you wanted to change a habit that you have that you might deem to be a bad habit, you can actually use things like affirmations, for example, to change certain things within your body. So
Mm.
there's studies that shown if you actually repeat something positive and likewise negative, but for our purposes, we want to focus on the positive. If you
Yeah.
repeat that, say, 3 times a day for 21 days, your
Mm.
actual DNA could even change to
Yeah.
program your mind to look at things in a different way, Sam. So for me, the repetitious nature that we would find is to then use the skills and impregnate it into our listeners so that they can actually get the gist of what we're trying to share with them, Sam.
Yeah, yeah. And as we said, that it's been proven that for you to reach the level of mastery, you've got to repeat some of these things 10,000 times. I'm wondering, Divesh and Maynard has just joined us as well. By the time we hit 40 of these units in December, do you think we'll have touched the 10,000 times? Welcome, Minette. I'm sure he's battling with his connection, but I can see him. He's joined us in the studio. Yeah.
Welcome, Maynard. And if I can respond to your point, Sam, it may not necessarily be the number of 10,000, but we would definitely have come close. And I'm
Mm.
hoping that our listeners as well can also benefit from some of the repetitious positive sentiments and skills that we're sharing with them so that
mm,
they can have some impact, positive impact in their lives, Sam?
mm. Yeah, indeed. Maynard, welcome. If you can't hear or if you can't talk, I hope you hear us. And then, of course, you can always drop me a comment on the chat box. Let's talk about these three concepts. We have touched on focusing when we were addressing the attention management unit. And then, of course, somehow we hinted on the presencing, which basically means that being fully present with all your emotions and feelings and action in the now. Now we bring in the mindfulness, which is basically a concept, which is actually a practice or behavior, a way of being, where you intentionally choose to be in the present, not that you ignore the past or you ignore the future, but you intentionally want to enjoy the moment and you're fully present without being judgmental. Now, how does that play itself in a situation where you are then hosting a show and you want to apply it? How does it play itself in that situation? Or should we perhaps explain or describe or define what mindfulness is? What's your understanding of mindfulness? Something to do with the mind, obviously.
I'm not sure if Maynard is got
Yes. I
his
don't think he's able
system
to
work.
talk.
Okay,
Probably his
so
network is failing him.
well, as we were talking about the chakras in our previous show, the aspect of mindfulness actually comes from a similar space where it's a Buddhist concept, and
Mm,
it talks about having bare attention, talks about being able to train your mind to focus on very limited areas that your body would be dealing with. For example, breathing, and really having 100% focus on that bare aspect of your
mm,
breathing, and being able to focus yourself then in things that calm you, things that brings you peace, and be able to block out any negativity that might be sitting in your mind at that point in time, Sam.
mm. Yeah, and I think it's important to note that it is actually originating out of Buddhism. You know, it comes from the religion Buddhism, but it has been advanced to really to become almost a concept that is again used as an intervention to learn to be fully present, and it requires some practice. Uh, it is said that this is actually a response to challenges that we are faced with as human beings, the demands of life that makes us not to be fully present. So you're either worried about what has happened yesterday and you can't get it off your mind, and you are anxious about what is likely to happen tomorrow. Again, you can't take it off your mind. And you end up actually never being with the moment you are in, irrespective of whether you are having the greatness around you at this present moment, but it does not make it's not even picked up by yourself because you are physically present, but your mind is away. And they say that that is one thing that robs you the opportunity of being with the moment. And now, if you go into the concept, it says to be with the moment means you also mustn't be judging or mustn't be reading too much into it. You just be fully present and recognizing the emotions, the thoughts without you welcoming them into your system, but just being fully present wholeheartedly without judging. Now, I can imagine how powerful that is in the moment when you are hosting the show and you are really not judging what is going on, but you are just fully present with your guest and you don't miss any any emotion, any feeling, any way that comes out of it. Or you could be studying and you are fully present with the work task of study. And the other example is what we call eating mindfulness. They say that the way we eat, because sometimes you are not fully present, you literally just throwing food into the stomach. You don't even smell and sense and taste the food. And I'm sure you can relate that, Divesh. A number of time at work, you go for lunch and you come back, you can't even remember the taste of the food, but the stomach is full. That can't be healthy.
Indeed, Sam. And also, I can relate at times where you force yourself to rest or go to sleep. But even while you're sleeping, you're busy thinking about the task you were busy working on. And sometimes you'll wake up in the morning and you feel as if you haven't actually had any rest at all. But to your
Mm.
point as well, with regards to online streaming, mindfulness is indeed a very critical skill, a very critical practice that our listeners can embark on. And in particular for online shows, a lot of the skills, a lot of the do's that and don'ts that we've outlined, there are quite a lot of them. So indeed, you got to have a very a peaceful sense of mind so that you can actually have these multitude of do's and don'ts playing in your mind while you paying also attention to what your guest is saying, having a sense of the vibration that you and your guests are then sharing to the audience. So you have to have mindfulness exercises as part of your regime to be able to get to your level of excellence, if I can put it that way, so that you can actually juggle all the do's and don'ts that we've been sharing already across the series, Sam.
Yeah, yeah. I did share with you and the colleagues the reference to Dr. Siegel, Ron Siegel. I used his book when I was learning mindfulness, and I must tell you, I was one of those who just didn't know where to start. But there's a very interesting exercise in the book that he exposed to us, which is called eating mindfulness. And they say take a raisin, the raisin, that mixed sometimes find it mixed with the peanut. And it said, if you want to see the power of mindfulness, and I'm just sharing with those who might be wondering about what is this, uh, you take the raisin. You first, it's in the plate or whatever on the table with your snacks. Before you touch it, you look at it, right? You look at the structure, you look at the color, it's blackish, and it looks like it says, touch me. It says, eat me, right? Looking at it, starting every little angle and corner of it, and then you grab it. And you grab it, you look at it now from your fingers, your hand, and you're looking at it again, you turn it around, and then you feel the texture. Hmm? Before you eat it, because that's not what we do when we eat, right? But you feel the texture of it, you say, and then you smell it. And you say, phew, smells very nice. And and then you put it on your tongue, and then you don't chew it. You just sort of like what do you call it when you just roll it in your mouth and
You
you
play with
you
it.
feel the yeah, you feel the juiciness of it, and it's like, wow, it says chew me. But you just delay that process of chewing because you are fully mindfully present with this thing that you are about to eat. But you want to get every little of the step before you can actually do the process of it. And you are focusing on, and then you start chewing it, and rather than swallowing it, you suck the juices out of that raisin, and you enjoy the juices, and then you start chewing. As you start chewing, you sense the texture in between your teeth and how it melts in your mouth, and then becomes even much more powerful taste of it. And then as you swallow it, and you listen to it as it goes down your what do you call it?
Your throat.
What do you call it?
Throat.
Passage. Yeah, I think it's the throat. Yeah, down your throat, and 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 you could even imagine seeing it going down and arriving in your stomach, and you get this fulfillment. You say, "Wow, I've never actually experienced eating in this manner." And and then in the process of being there, you actually you actually have forgotten the whole world around you. You've forgotten about the past, the future. And they're saying that this is one, if you have gone through that experience and you have felt how for a short while you've totally forgotten about yourself and everything around you. That is mindfulness. Mindfulness is not sleeping and disappearing mental in terms of mind. Mindfulness, meditation is not mindfulness. Meditation is a practice that you can engage in that make you experience mindfulness state because mindfulness is a state of being fully in the present without judging and without really losing yourself and going into the future or into the past. The other example of doing that is driving mindfulness, where you intentionally say, I'm going to drive from here to Pretoria, and I'm going to practice mindfulness by making sure that I'm going to try and be aware of every little milestone I go past until I get to Pretoria. That is hard because in many cases we drive past so many milestones, we don't even notice them. We don't even see the beauty we're driving past. We can't even remember how many times we changed the lanes on the highway. We can't even remember the cars that went past us because we were totally fully absent and yet we were driving. That is another exercise you can use. But the eating mindfulness is the most powerful one because when you're mindfully eating the food as the food comes onto the table, you look at the food the way it's presented. You start looking at the various combinations and colors of this food. You look at the plate with which is given to you, and you start admiring without touching. Look at the meat, and then as you start cutting, chopping that piece of meat, you feel that the swiftness of the knife through that. Pick up a piece with a fork. Instead of immediately throwing it into the mouth, you look at it. You can imagine people looking at you at the restaurant as if you are crazy. But it's amazing because sometimes you choose the steak, you don't even know how the steak looked like. We don't even know how tender the steak was. When you give feedback to the guy in the kitchen, you actually just give it generic. You not say, I looked at that taste, that steak. It looks so yummy. And I felt like I could hold it and delay the eating because it was just beautifully presented. And then when you start chewing, it's so juicy, and you start sucking the nutrients that come out of that, and you salivate and you delay the swallowing because there's just so much beauty coming out of it. And then when you eat, and then you start listening slowly, how you then bring different kind of that that being fully present with what you are experiencing at that moment, whether it's action or whether you are just observing, and your mind is fixated there, there's no future, there's no past. That is the deepest way of actually being fully present with what you are experiencing at this moment. And when you are able to do that without losing your mind, you are actually experiencing the power of mindfulness. And the mind loves that. The mind gets disturbed when it goes into the future and into the past, and you try to be. That's why sometimes you bite yourself when you are eating because when your mind is not there, because there's 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 no coordination between the action of eating and the action of thinking. Many accidents on the road are caused exactly by people who are not able to practice mindfulness. They forget to do a 360-degree all the way, and they can't even see the car that is coming at the speed that is so fast that if you change without actually allowing that person pass, it's going to knock at you. You are not fully present in terms of driving. Let me stop there and ask you to reflect. I'm sure I'm talking to the converted Divesh, but I'm keeping in mind that we have got listeners that are wanting to understand what this mindfulness is.
Yes, indeed, Sam. I do enjoy the analogy of eating mindfulness because it's exactly that. We forget um, some of our day to day regular things, such as eating, breathing, as a practice that will happen unconsciously or subconsciously, but we are not taking cognizance of the presence. We are often thinking about the past, like you've rightfully said, we're thinking about the future, and we are missing out on the present. And the journey towards having a better mindfulness about ourselves is about reaching a state where we can actually improve our immune system, reduce the stresses in our life, and tune our bodies to even work
Mm,
at challenges that we have with regards to anxiety, issues of dejection in our lives. Those are problems that we have in our mind, but the bigger challenge that we've got, and I think it's due to our everyday lives and our routines that society has got us um, entoiled into, where we've lost that connection between our body, our thoughts, and what's actually happening around us. The examples you highlighted definitely outline a simpler mechanism that hopefully our audience can understand. That we take simple things, that of the raisin. Normally, you would just grab that raisin, just not even look at it, and like you rightfully said, throw it in your mouth, chew it, not necessarily even taste what that raisin was actually trying to tell your body. Unless it's a bad raisin, then we'll probably pick it up very quickly. But you would
mm,
expect the raisin not to be bad, and you would eat that and not even think twice about it. But the moment we take that journey of really dissecting that simple process of that raisin interacting with our body is that journey of becoming mindful, and then being able to then project your mind as you train it to be able to be mindful about your surroundings, be mindful of what your guest is saying, every word, his reaction, his vibration, and to be able to tune yourself to even then envisage things like how your body is reacting inside, even though we can't see it, but the mind can be tuned to be able to visualize it and then be able to even talk to it and be able to calm yourself down, improve your breathing whenever the situation asks for it. So, indeed, the selection of ideas about mindfulness that you've shared, I fully agree with them, and I definitely can see them, how they fit into the journey of becoming mindful.
yeah, yeah. Basically, we have touched on the four aspects of practicing mindfulness. One is paying attention. And I think if we remember the attention management module that we addressed, then secondly, the acceptance. So when you're practicing mindfulness and when you are trying to be fully present, you must try and not to judge. Try not to interpret too much of what you are going through. That just experience that. So that is acceptance. And then, of course, scanning. Either you're scanning the environment to become aware of what is in front of you this time at the moment in time. So if without scanning, you might not be aware because the being fully present helps you to see what is here now. And then, of course, then they say that then the first step of any experiencing the power of mindfulness is to do what we call mindfulness meditation. Now, what is important is to not to confuse meditation with mindfulness. As I said earlier on, meditation is an activity that you embark on to experience mindfulness. And that's why not all kinds of meditation will be able to help you to get to experience mindfulness. For instance, transcendental meditation, where you close your eyes and then you say wait. It can't make you to be fully present because mindfulness is associated with silence. So that you get to a point where you are able actually you hear the loudness of silence. That's why the audio that I shared with you from Dr. Tara Bach, It is if you listen, if you go and listen to it, and you will see a number of times she allows silence to be so loud that you even think she's gone. And then when she comes back, you want to say like, "Oh my goodness, where have you been?" Because it's so quiet and it's so peaceful, and you are so fully present that when she comes back, you're like, "Wow, I missed that voice." But hey, the silence was powerful. And if you can actually, through meditation practice, achieve that level of silence, the peace you will have at falling asleep afterwards is incredible, or even healing or boosting your immune system, or being so highly impactful as a leader or as a host of a show or as a manager. When you allow that silence to rule over everybody in that room at that moment will be so fully connected because you are all fully present. And that's why the first step to experience it is not to say, I want to practice mindfulness. I'll share with you a very interesting story. When I was reading Dr. Ron Fickel's book, you know, I had an engagement in the Eastern Cape just outside King Williamstown. So I had two trips in 1 month, in 1 week, in 2 weeks. The first trip, I took that book. I got into the aeroplane. When I got into the transport, when I got there, I had read half of it. Coming back, I've almost finished the book, but I still didn't understand. The second time when I flew to East London, I did the same. I read it now with the practices associated with it from his website. But I must tell you, the day I cracked it, I realized that actually this is what every human being requires. The the importance of sometimes prescribing silence to us, but when you prescribe that silence and you get it, you must actually not drift away, but indulge in it and experience the impact of that silence. Sometimes we call it if you want to experience it on a Sunday afternoon with a cheesecake, I love cheese, or Black Forest cake, and a cup of coffee, no music, nothing in the garden, just observing the garden and the birds and everything and the surrounding and enjoying the sucking of that coffee and the taste of that cake, taking as long as it takes and enjoying every step of the way. Then I realized that you can actually heal yourself without actually necessarily being assisted by anybody. With those words, let me welcome Datera Bula. I purposely allowed you to settle in so that you catch up with us. We are on mindfulness as part of the focusing and presencing that enhances your ability to impact on your listeners and the guests as a host. And then we'll come to, after you greeted us and the listeners, we'll come and talk about the emotional intelligence and mindfulness, the relation between the two. Over to you, Dr. Pula, if you are able to talk.
Good evening, Sam. Good evening, Divesh, and good evening, Maynard. I think the less I speak about the mindfulness, the better for me, because now you remind me a lot of things which happens in the past, and especially along there's those gardens where you start saying, how do you meditate without even disrupting anything else? So for now, I'll introduce myself and keep on listening further because I like what Divesh just said. How do you enhance from that angle to make sure that you are part and parcel of resuscitating your brains? Because basically that is make sure that your brains get resuscitated, re-energized. That's uh, one of the items around being mindfulness. That's my take for now. I'll just listen as much as I.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Abdullah. We also emphasizing the fact that mindfulness and meditation should not be confused, but you need mindfulness meditation practice to be able to achieve and experience mindfulness. But also we're saying that in everything you do, you can call it what mindfulness. For instance, hosting the show, You become mindful of every step of the way. Even bathing, when you are having a shower, you must feel the water dripping down your body to the bottom. I even feel the warmth of that shower and your skin under that shower. Because sometimes, again, shower is one of the most beautiful things, but we're so busy all the time that we don't even experience the beauty of just being in the bath or lying there and really, really not falling asleep. Because once you fall asleep, you are not really practicing mindfulness or you are not meditating. But and then realize how much you miss so much soothing of that body by just being fully present with the bathing rather than just throwing water onto your body and say you are washing. You lose the therapeutic part of it, right? You know?
Yes, Sam. I just wanted to reflect a bit on the aspect of silence and the beauty that it can actually bring. But although I agree with you in that space, but in relation to our last show where we spoke of the chakras and finding vibration within your body to be able to affect how your body feels, how your mind feels, to bring about the balance. You would
Mm,
find in some cultures they like, for example, the drum. The
mm,
sound of that vibration is actually calming, and it can
mm,
help you with your mindfulness journey. In other cultures, you find a bell that's constantly
mm,
rang at a certain vibration again. You have these bells which they hit against each other, they hold it in their hands. Buddhists
mm,
use those types of practice. So we must also just be cognizant as well that sometimes a person needs to experience different mechanisms to find which one works for them.
yeah.
I know as well, I used to live next to a train station, and
Mm,
having that constant, and back in those days transnet's trains used to run on time, so
mm,
you would know, you wouldn't even need to look at the watch, you'd be able to
mm,
tell what time it is just by listening in on
mm,
the train that's actually going past.
yeah.
Yes, that could
Yeah.
be distracting, but also it can be therapeutic in itself, that it gives you in that space cognizance of what you're focusing on. And that's
Mm,
exactly what I wanted to also talk about is what does it mean to be fully present. If we talk of online broadcasting, for example, we want to be fully present, that we know what we're going to say, we know what the
mm,
plan was as we had planned it with the guest.
mm,
We know as well what they might say, but you have to listen in while they are talking. You have to be ready with regards to how you're going to respond, what points you want to emphasize. So that has
mm,
to be also in alignment with the broadcasting platform, what's expected there. It has to be in alignment with what the audience is expecting. So, being fully present in that situation would mean you have all these things in your mind, and it's not a chaotic situation. You need that mindfulness that all these little elements in the broadcasting environment actually support one another so you can have a successful show, Sam.
absolutely. It's like having a shower. A shower is never a quiet thing. It makes noises, right?
Indeed, Sam.
And therefore you must be fully present with the flow as the water is making noise. Or what is that? Do you know that little thing that bores the wood of it makes some noise, you know, and
Oh, the
you can
woodpecker.
choose, yeah, woodpecker, yeah, you can choose to listen to the noise until you're fully present with that noise until it evokes certain feelings and emotions in you. And I think in a radio device, you've been fully present with what you are, with the words that are coming out of your guest's mouth, or they've been present with the emotions that convey. I agree with you 100%. Maybe silence is another noise, but there could be a real noise that you choose to be impressed, fully present with it, and it becomes the subject of your focus, right?
Yes, and I
So,
think
so
this the silence you mentioned could not it could also mean not physically you in an area which is completely silent, but in your own mind be able to
yeah,
focus so much that you develop the silence.
indeed. I like the you're jumping in there because we don't want to mislead people thinking that mindfulness means being quiet. Mindfulness is just being present with what is happening that you choose to be present with, right?
Indeed.
Mm. So, but that's where now you see when they talk about mindfulness in customer services, when you are fully present with the work of giving service to a client, that actually benefits you in terms of impact you make on a client. For instance, being individually focused, actively listening, and I think we have touched on active listening. You can't be actively listening if you are not fully present. And building the rapport, being intentionally and mindful about building the rapport. And I think that's where the verb mindful comes in. Is it a verb or is it adjective? It's an adverb, right? Building rapport and also intentionally timing your engagement with. So that is where now you start using mindfulness to address your leadership and management impact.
Yes, and as well in your focus area of customer service, um, unfortunately, a lot of customer service doesn't even reach that point of being mindful, where you
Mm-hmm.
actually listen to your customer, what they're actually looking for or what they have a problem with. We're often just happy about the sale, and then once the sale is made you move on to the next customer, not making sure that the current customer that you serviced is actually completely satisfied. So the
Yeah.
aspect you raised of having individual focus, active listening, building the rapport with the customer, and then timing in terms of letting them speak when they have
Mm-hmm.
the induka in their
Mm-hmm.
hand, and then giving them that level of respect that they're not just a number where they're
Yeah.
going to make your sale, but they're actually valued and they must keep coming back. So it's a very
Mm-hmm.
important aspect as well, which where we can apply mindfulness in the area
Yeah.
of customer service.
Yes. The mistake management does is to prescribe it to the customer facing colleague. Take care of the customers. But if we don't expose them to the practice that will give them the capacity to be able to take care, because taking care is instruction, but doing it is an ability. And mindfulness, it can be a way of building that emotional tenacity to be able to withstand the challenges that are posed at you by the client, and you do it without actually feeling pressure. And I think this is where also we go wrong. You know, you can learn the best customer care call, but if you don't have tools like this that are going to give you the stamina to to be cognizant, be mindful, and take a good timing, you are not actually going to be able to achieve the highest impact you can actually achieve.
I,
Achieve. Yeah, Steven?
I think a lot of the spam callers could benefit a lot from this, because as soon as you answer the phone and then they tell you a little bit about what they're calling you for, you would automatically, me, I would say, that's not really what I'm looking for. I wasn't looking for that. Now you want to tell me I need to buy this from you. So you're already losing the battle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They have no tenacity and time to actually to connect with you. They just want to sell. Very mechanical.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think the people are giving chance, like you rightfully said, to be trained and to actually benefit from something that they as an individual can, use in their own lives, not necessarily just there to make that sale. It's more a case, like you rightfully said, how many people did you call today and how many people have bought what you were selling?
Mm,
And then you
mm,
just run through the day and you want to get home
mm,
after that day. It's not really being fully present in
mm,
that customer service portfolio, Sam.
mm. But Abdullah, I'm sure this can be very much beneficial to your entrepreneurs that you engage with. I know entrepreneurs are under so much pressure to do They don't have time to be.
Do you know, Sam, when both yourself and Diverge are speaking, I'm trying to my mind is always on practical approach.
Mm,
How do you take something from a theoretical perspective to a practical approach? And it
mm,
brought me to a conversation I had today with one of the senior guys in the industry, and we were talking about there's one mistake we do as coaches, and especially going to entrepreneurs. We've got this thing of one size fits all.
mm,
We don't do what I normally use the word environmental scan and be cognizant of the say, what are the needs of the entrepreneur? And subsequently adapt where possible your program to make sure that it suit what is in front of you. You are mindful of what is in front of you, which is an entrepreneur.
mm. I had a session today with a client, and this is somebody who's a manager, and I was using conscious leadership, 7 levels of conscious leadership by David Murray. So now I say to her that I'm very interested at level 4 because I think the Maslow's hierarchy of needs levels, the first 3 levels, you spotted there, not there.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
then it became clear that she was focusing too much on the people. I said, you're trying very hard to get your people to deliver at the level you want them. That is not our focus in this session. I'm focusing on you. And I'm saying that these people being lower to you, how are they making you behave in terms of your coaching? So, and then I said also, as somebody coaching you in leadership, I'm not coaching you on how to do the task because that I can't. That's mentoring. If you want that, you go to me. I'm coaching you on how you, from a leadership point of view, understand this concept and how you can use them to unlock the best out of your people. Also not task based, not functional, in terms of their attitude and mindset and behavior towards the request that the company puts forward them deliver. Because once you focus on they are not delivering because they are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, that is the next level. Once they believe that they can do it, you have won the battle, and they understand the concept that this is something that if you use it, it will give you the capacity to be able to face the context in which and the complexity you are dealing with. Now, when you are now achieved that, then you are battling in terms of the how of doing something, then we can bring mentorship in or coaching on action coaching in. And this is what I want to say. Sometimes when we're talking about this concept, yes, they need applied in a context, right? But we must never jump, we must not rush to move away from the unpacking of the meaning of the concept. Because that is very powerful. That is self-empowering when somebody understands the concept and then when they apply it to a context, they apply it with clarity and assurances that they know what it means. Because the word mindfulness, someone who has never been in a session like this, when they see, I can bet you, they see the mind and then fullness, they understand the two words put together, they don't know that it means something different.
Exactly.
And you understand? It's like emotional intelligence. Emotion and its intelligence, but when you put them together, they mean something completely different. So we must not hide behind the academic jargon and be lazy to simplify things or ordinary stuff that they then ultimately understand it in the language that is simple. Once they understood it, in terms of that, the favorite model that Divesh always reminds us of, the conscious competency model. You have moved up from first level, which is unconscious incompetency, to the level of conscious incompetency. They are ready to go. Then you can start bringing that practicality context because that's why sometimes this debate about what is better, academic studies or vocational studies. I said, no, it's not either or, it's both. The spiritual intellectual studies give you the way of explaining the difficult world. The vocational gives you the way of practicalizing things. So you can't have one of the two and then think that you achieve the result. They both apply, right, Kapula?
Yes, they do. What you just said? What's more important is when you start thinking in terms of you as a person and focus on next focus point, which is in front of you. You start realizing, and the more you do it, the better you become a stable person. I use the word stable and conscious in that it might not be interpreted appropriately. In by stable was saying you start managing your environment rather than environment managing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in
And as
so
we
to
have agreed last time, you and I, Rabula, just to support the point you are raising, that the best way of teaching is sometimes to apply what you have just learned and
exactly,
experience the impact.
exactly.
I think also to
Yeah.
I think also to Rapula's point, we had discussed earlier on the value of positive repetition, and we also spoke of different sort of strokes for different folks. So even though the concept of mindfulness is universal. The values cannot be debated. It definitely has a positive impact on your body, your mind, your environment that you're in, and definitely getting the best out of you. um, you can actually reach your state of mindfulness in your own unique way. The skills we share can be adapted to your own personal preferences. So, indeed, Rapula, it's not about having the one size fits all approach. We definitely can use the skills that we are sharing with the program for online broadcasting, entrepreneurship, just even in terms of your own mental well-being, to deal with certain challenges that you have in life. A lot of the skills we're sharing definitely can be applicable on different fronts. Depends how well you understand the do's and don'ts, the skills we share, and if you fully understand it, you will be able to then use it in your area that needs it the most. Back.
Indeed. And I like it. In actual fact, it's just that we don't have time to go through the entire material. Exactly the point you guys are addressing is addressed by where people start to bring this into real life. We spoke about customer service and mindfulness. And now they talk about mindfulness in leadership. I mean, a leader that is in the presence of staff is not mindful of what is going on there and there, the dynamics that are playing around there, because he's struggling to be fully present because there are just too many things occupying his mind. He can't wait for this meeting to finish because he's only thinking about the next meeting. And then people can see through it that this person is not fully present.
And do you know, Sam, I used the word of saying, as a leader, that's an opportunity which you may not recover in future. And it might even go back and say, this was a lost opportunity. I had the opportunity of being mindful
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
person in front of me because that person was bringing something significant to change the way we do things. And by that time, it must be very late at the time.
Yeah. Because when you recover, you do realize that you lost the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Unless those leaders who doesn't do what I call recovery are those leaders who don't do reflection of their daily
Yeah.
activity. Daily activity is more to say that I missed this tick. Do you know in there's this concept of saying in operation we operate like robots. So everything goes on a belt. If it stops, then the belt doesn't work. You go find out where the belt doesn't work. You can't think. And of which you can still think, even if it's is an operational level. To say, am I
My brother Abdullah, I decry the fact that when we were still learning management sciences and being trained to become good administrators, managers, and leaders, we were just told that follow the content and try to apply it, you'll become a better manager. Now we are discovering through this type of philosophy that if this thing there,
mm.
You will not try that too much hard. The test
No.
was just give you a framework. And then the biggest work, 80% of the work is this
Mm,
behavioral stuff,
mm.
the emotions, the feelings, as they listed four of them, the mental resilience. You can't become
Was
a
it,
teacher if you don't have resilience in this complex world.
was it not because at the time, people who were conveying the message we also have some deficiencies in terms of addressing, guys, that's not how we do things.
Well, they were influenced. Remember, the baby boomers were influenced by the industrialization. You know, the
Yes.
industrial revolution, or things like
Mm,
specialization
mm,
and what do you call cutting job into smaller pieces. There was no
mm,
mind, there was no emotions, there was no feelings there. How do we get the best quantity out of this factory life? So they learn
mm,
people moving one piece after another the whole day without thinking.
mm,
And then of course it worked at some stage because the productive level was high. That means you could
mm,
deploy more products in the market, and some people doesn't have that specialization concept.
mm,
People
mm,
then mastered it, and the Japanese brought in the total quality mass, whatever the first, what is it called, first, what is it that Kanban and all those systems. Then it was no longer actually a competitive advantage any longer. And then until now, the era where we are now, we realize that actually the productivity is not as a result of you having streamlined operations. Productivity has
mm,
to do with you having emotional tenacity, focus, compassion, and creativity. Because you don't have to move people, you don't have to line up people. People out of
mm.
themselves, motivated and wanting to do better, they will just give you the productivity that you need.
Like, exactly, yes.
And now, if you are a leader today, you are not even mindful of the dynamics that are playing in front of you, or you are
Mm,
ignorant of them.
mm,
I mean, if you are not going to be able, this is not the 80s, you are not going to be able to achieve everything by briefing down the necks of people. You have
mm,
to be very
mm,
creative in how do I motivate this? And in terms of the conscious engagement model, once they've
mm,
understood the purpose, how do you ignite passion in them so that they
mm,
can self-direct to achieve performance at its highest level?
mm, 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 mm,
When you look at our material here, and they talk
mm,
about the cultivating the high performance emotion. Now they are
mm,
saying to you that high performance is not just happening because of technical functional expertise. It has to do
mm,
with emotions and feelings. So they
mm,
talk
mm,
about cultivating enthusiasm. That's passion, so that the
mm,
engagement is high and productivity
mm,
grows.
mm.
Cultivating
Yep.
confidence. Somebody who is competent because we've edified and affirmed them, they're going to do
Mm,
very well. And
mhm,
then, of course,
mhm,
tenacity. Say to people
mm,
that this needs us to be real tenacious because the
mm,
nature of but you do it in a way that people feel that they are motivated, that you are with them, and you are not actually asking them to deliver miracles.
mm,
Okay?
mm, mm,
So
mm,
I think those things by saying, supporting the statements you and Divej was stressed, that actually
mm,
these things do apply to the real world. And
mm,
actually, they
mm,
are in terms of conscious engagement model of purpose, passion, performance. That is my truth.
mm, mm. No, no, no. I'm with you. I'm with you, Sam. Sam, and I totally agree with you. What you just attributed for now to say, perhaps our learnings in the past were task focused rather than individual growth. To make sure
Mm.
that you are mindful of your environment. Once you become mindful of environment, it's easier to pull the environment with you. But once you're task
Mm.
focused, you tend to lose the environment next to you. You tend to lose the
Mm.
focus, and your focus becomes different in terms of it becomes material or if not material,
Mm.
artificial. So you lose
Mm.
people you work with. Hence, they were saying very often people resign not because of their company, but because of the manager.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it was era. I'm sure if you try to apply this in that era of the industrial revolution, they will have chucked you out of the company.
And to Rapula's point as well as yours, Sam, in my opinion, and it's proven as well that For true leadership, you got to have mental resilience, you got to have focus, you got to have compassion and the level of creativity, and have an understanding of mindfulness. We would often misinterpret that because a lot of people in leadership positions are not necessarily leaders. So, if we look
Mm.
at successful leaders, you will definitely find those qualities in that leader, Sam.
Yeah, exactly. Whether they are aware or not, sometimes it's just there in them. And let's hope they are aware of it, because then if they are not aware of it, then they can't repeat it.
Indeed, Sam.
There's a level of intentionality. Wow. Colleagues, let's check out. I know we stretched it a little bit, but this is a beautiful, and I think again, I can say it, things are coming together nicely. I mean, these conducts are just coming together so nicely, and you find that out of what we have discussed today, 50% we've already covered. We just added a 50% layer. You might as well check out as we reflect on that statement as well, colleagues.
If I can go first, Sam.
Yes, yes, Divesh.
Thank you. For me, my takeaway is that mindfulness is about focusing your mind and body, presencing yourself. So, being and fully engaged with your present moment, and then focusing on what's critical when you're engaging in relation to your broadcasting environment, your audience and your guest, and in your own life it could be your partner if it's a relationship, it could be your boss if it's in a work organization, or it can be, as well as we also highlighted, if it's in a sales environment, your customer. So, being fully present as well is something that comes with you practicing these tools that we've shared in terms of some meditation that could help you, or being able to find out what in your environment, what in your own mind and body actually brings you to a state of fully being present and being in a state of calm. That's for me, Sam.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Divesh. We are on the trainer type of a discussion here, and I'm fascinated by uh, us keeping on bringing the practical reality, because as a trainer, a number of times, Rapula, I think you will be asked to bring these things to real life situations. Please reflect on that and check out as well.
My reflection on that, that's why I said today I'm going to listen as much as I could, is to say, when I often say this to the entrepreneurs, I said entrepreneurs are mad people. They are crazy.
Mm.
But if you help them on their craziness to be mindful of the environment, be mindful of where they are at the time, it makes life easier for them to grow and move faster to the next level. So what is my learnings this afternoon or this evening was to say, how do I take that body and my soul into the mind of the entrepreneur? And that was the takeoff of it.
Mm.
Entrepreneurs are crazy people, but if you make them
Yeah,
aware of the
yeah,
environment at the time and they must practice that, that is
yeah,
his history. That's the limit. That's my take from this afternoon. Thank you.
yeah. Beautiful indeed. I can sense the passion in your voice, Rapula, when you talk about entrepreneurs. It gives me hope that we will be journeying with entrepreneurs into the future, because it is just our way of being.
Mm.
No entrepreneur should be left alone to struggle.
Yes.
Mm.
And one of the things which we need to advocate with entrepreneurs to say, you can envy any CEO in South Africa. That CEO has got a mentor
Yeah,
and a coach.
indeed, indeed.
So you don't say yourself, I'm starting from scratch. they often tells you about the affordability. So no, there's many means of dealing with that issue of affordability. But for you to grow and move to the next level, you need a mentor and a coach, or can both at the same time.
Yeah. And these tools, if they are shared with them, you have given them, you have taught them how to catch the fish for life.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, colleagues. Beautiful as always, and I'm sure I'm going to repeat it as I said it last time. That it does look like these units are falling down so fast that we will reach 40 very soon. And I'm just excited about the possibility of arriving at that and reflecting and saying, wow, after all, it was necessary to go through this conduct as train the trainer people. I don't think you will be struggling to having to refer all the time. You will it will basically be your way of being as you engage with those who will be undergoing our program. So as we look forward to the next Monday, Monday 1900 hours and Tuesday 1900 hours, we will be looking at conduct number 19. Sorry, unit number 19, conduct 14. And that is still on the improving self-awareness, focusing on mobile phone etiquette. Now, this is the do's and the don'ts. This is one of the don'ts in a live studio. Mobile phones should be on silent only if it's not interfering with the loops, it's not looping and interfering with the quality of your sound. But even if you look at it, be careful that it does not make you to be absent and distract your desire to be truly present. But more so, it could actually distract you from actually hearing or understanding what the guest is saying. The same as eating and drinking is not allowed, only under special exception. Like in this case, we do use our phones to WhatsApp each other when we are unable to hear each other on the platform. So therefore, it's going to be quite very interesting if you guys can think about how do we then integrate it into this. If it's not allowed, but it becomes allowed because it's an integral to the technology now that you are using for this online broadcasting, how best can we handle it? Let's not just take the notes as they are. Let's be creative. And with the evolution of AI, in future, these things will be very integrated. Maybe we can't be too strict and say, don't handle mobile phone while you are in the virtual studio. Maybe we should be creative and innovative rather than say don't. So that's the focus on next Monday and Tuesday. Thank you so much to you, colleagues, Divesh, Motilal, Maynard Maisela, Rapula, Mulivani, and the listeners on the platform. My name is Sam Zimmer, and that's Cometa Radio Worldwide. The mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. Our shows are based on the principle called the idea. We inform and entertain, we develop and educate, we empower and support, we associate and network. That's the idea. That was our digital online streaming mastery show, a weekly show that is aimed at imparting the knowledge on the do's and don'ts of being a host, co-host, anchor, a DJ of a virtual online platform like digital online radio and podcast. Thank you so much. Until we see you next week, Monday, same time, 1900 hours, South Africa Standard Time. Goodbye.